All right, great. So let's just go over a little bit about what we're going to be talking about this evening. We're going to be talking about who we are at International TEFL Academy, why you should be teaching in Latin America. I'm sure you guys have some ideas already because you're here with us this evening. We'll also touch on requirements and key information to teach in this region, types of teaching positions in Latin America, and an overview of the top countries to teach in, along with your TEFL class options, what might be the best fit for you when taking on this new adventure, a job search assistance so you know how we can help you get a job in the region. And at the very end, we'll take some time and answer some of your questions. We'll try to get to them throughout the presentation, like Jesse said, with little Shay in the chat box, who's going to be doing a lot of work. But I'm sure you guys will have more pouring in at the end.
Definitely. So we are International TEFL Academy, so TEFL, TEFL. And so really what we do here is provide TEFL certification classes to certify our teachers to go overseas and teach English, and in this case, in Latin America. Here are some of our reviews. We very much, we think we're the best, but let our alumni kind of do the talking. So check out these kind of industry websites like Go Abroad, Go Overseas, and then of course Google and the Better Business Bureau, and see what our alumni have to say about their experience with ITA, and then really make a choice in your TEFL provider from there. So yeah, check those out when you have a free minute.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about who we are. Let's meet this team. This is a little sneak peek at the staff of International TEFL Academy. This picture here is just a fraction of the people that we've got on staff here to help assist you, train you, and help you with getting your job. We have admissions advisors that I'm sure many of you have talked to already when you're making your travel plans. We have dozens of professors that are, in my opinion, overqualified to be working for us. These are people with like master's degrees in English education, linguistics. Many of them have PhDs. They've lived and taught internationally. It's crazy, but they stick around. So I hope they continue to do that. And we've got our student affairs team, dozens of people on staff willing to help you with, answering questions, lining up teaching positions, helping you with relocating to new regions of the world. They're the go-getters. They're awesome. They're all the people I wish I was friends with in high school and college because they're like a little powerhouse. But yeah, we've all lived abroad or taught abroad or worked abroad. This is all in our bones. It's what we do, and we're very happy to help you guys, make this less of a pipe dream and more of a reality.
So we want to, and if you're here tonight, you're clearly, of course, interested in teaching English in Latin America, but so I don't know, maybe we don't need to sell you any further, but here really are some of the benefits of teaching English in Latin America. A big one right off the bat is you do not need a 4-year university degree. A degree is not required. This makes it a great place for really anybody. If you are a fluent or native English speaker, you do not need that degree. Good to know. Travel galore. I mean, absolutely, really inexpensive, easy to get around, endless beauty, so much to see and do. You will not have a dull weekend if you're teaching English in Latin America. Learning Spanish is high on a lot of our students' lists. It's a great resume builder. It's a great way, just a great skill to have to travel the world. This is a great, go somewhere like Colombia. You'd have to learn Spanish, and you would really learn it really inexpensively and just effectively. Tons of opportunities, language schools, public schools, teaching English online, which we're going to talk about a whole bunch at the end. Really popular in this part of the world. Some of our alumni are only teaching English online in Latin America, which is really cool and really exciting. And then private tutoring, of course. Really affordable, very low cost of living, especially coming from the States and going and kind of setting up camp and living in Latin America. You don't need this huge sum of money like you might need to go move to Germany or Spain or something like that. And again, as I was saying at the beginning, with no degree, less restrictive, when it comes to age and citizenship and degree requirements. Really, Latin America is for teaching anybody, is a great fit for teaching in Latin America. With your TEFL certification, great options. So yeah, and we'll cover a lot of this as we go on.
Yeah, and now we're going to touch on some of the requirements for teaching English in Latin America. There aren't too many. It's flexible, just like Jesse said, which is great. All right, so as she mentioned, the degree requirement. So in most of Central and South America, a university degree is not required. It always helps to have it, but it's not a make or break situation here. You know, honestly, in many countries, when a degree is required, it's not necessarily that schools think a teacher with a bachelor's degree is going to be a better teacher. Often more times than not, it's a requirement for a work visa. So it's more of like a government requirement and less so of an employer requirement, which I don't think many people know. I also have a great friend and colleague who, works here at ITA. She was down in Ecuador a couple years ago with her husband and child, and she was looking at, just talking to schools in Cuenca, I believe it was, and she's got a master's in education, and she told me that no school asked about her master's. No one cared. They cared that you have TEFL training and you're a native English speaker. Obviously, if you want higher paying positions or working for maybe international schools or something, that would be helpful. But for most jobs at language centers or private tutoring, like basic jobs, it's not required. So tons of options over in Latin America.
Definitely. And kind of like Cassie was kind of touching on, and there are some countries that have these kind of hard requirements. Maybe it is to get a work visa. So maybe there are some citizenship requirements for certain teaching markets in Asia or Europe. Latin America, not the case. So, native English speakers and fluent English speakers can find work in Latin America. This makes this part of the world very, very unique and, again, very accessible for really everybody.
And be ready to interview in person if you're wanting to work in Latin America. I talk with students every day that are like, what? I have to pack up my life and move to a country and I don't have a job lined up in advance? I know. Deep breath, guys. We can do this. It's very common in this region, and not just in Latin America. It happens in Asia. It happens in Europe. It's not as crazy as you think it is. These countries have hiring times. You go at the right time and schools are there ready to hire. You have to remember that these schools, they could talk to you on Skype and really love you, but are they going to bank on you quitting your job, leaving your family, putting your dog with your parents and showing up on their doorstep to work? No, I wouldn't either. So in-person interviews are where it's at. And if you accept a position after interviewing, they want you to start teaching right away. So it is a very quick turnaround. And again, we will help you do this. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. However, there are some countries where there are schools that hire in advance over the phone or on Skype. It does happen here or there, but again, to err on the side of caution, just be prepared to do those face-to-face interviews in that country.
Yeah, and I definitely had experience in Vietnam doing these face-to-face interviews. And one thing about it was I just loved being able to go there, meet the staff, meet the administrators, check out the facility, and you got a really, really good feel of like, hey, this is a great school. I would love to work here, or I don't think so. So it really is. It seems kind of daunting perhaps, but it really was a great way to kind of make sure that I was going into a job that I was qualified for and that was just a good fit. So yeah, definitely don't be deterred or something by this interview process. And kind of going into hiring seasons, about 50-50 split in terms of what countries have hiring seasons, and some just have year-round hiring. So somewhere like Mexico, Costa Rica, when we say year-round hiring, that really means that there is not a bad day of the year to go there and find work. There is so much demand, you can go there and pretty much have luck anytime. And then we see, somewhere like Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, we do see these distinct hiring seasons, meaning that you want to be TEFL certified on the ground, ready to interview in, either February to March or July and August. So you're ready to go. So you're not maybe starting your class in February, you're TEFL certified on the ground during these times to be able to have your best chance at finding a really, really good job. So definitely talk with your advisor. If you are here, you definitely have an advisor. Talk with them and make sure that you are planning around, distinct hiring seasons if you're going to a country that does have them.
All right, and visas. So visas are going to be different for every country, what they require, how you submit documentation. It's all unique to that specific country. And there are a variety of options down here. So a couple to be familiar with are tourist visas and work visas. Work visas are sponsored by your employer in many cases. Sometimes these are things like independent contractors visas that you can apply for on your own. You can find work visas in Mexico, Chile, Colombia, and Ecuador. In these countries, be prepared with a work visa to get documents together, possibly have a small amount of money for this work visa. Oftentimes, employers won't pay this fee. This could be $100. It could be up to $400 in some countries, so be prepared for that. This is sometimes something you can do prior to leaving the United States. Other times, you secure your job in person, submit your documentation for a work visa, and then you've got to leave the country and come back in for that work permit or work visa to take effect. I know that might sound a little bit confusing. When you know exactly where you want to go, I encourage you to get on the phone with your advisor, and they'll be able to walk you through step by step. Because again, even then, the way that Mexico processes work visas is entirely different than Chile. So it's hard to generalize. In all these other countries, they're going to do a thing where you go into the country on a tourist visa. Tourist visas are typically good for that country for about 90 days. And every 90 days, you do what we call border hopping. Sounds exotic. It is. It's kind of nice. By doing this, you will go to the crossover into a neighboring country, spend a weekend, have some time, explore. That's one of the reasons we teach abroad, is to see neighboring countries, experience new cultures. So go do that for the weekend, re-enter back into your country where you're living, and you're good for another 90 days. Sometimes you can even extend your tourist visa within the country for another 90 days, maybe once or twice. So going on a tourist visa, I'd say, is most common. Border hopping, taking a little trip every 3 months is also very common. Get your teacher friends together and go have some fun. And this is just a great way to do things a little bit easier. Work visas are oftentimes expensive and they take a while to get. And a lot of countries in Central and South America, quite frankly, just can't afford it. So this is a way that works for both you and your employer, which is pretty great.
Definitely. Money. So be prepared to break even in Latin America. So what we mean by break even is you're not like totally, out of money, but you're covering your basic living expenses, rent, travel, again, going out occasionally, traveling a little bit regionally, but likely not going to be saving on top of that. So paying off student loans or paying off any sort of debt, likely not going to happen if you're just working at a private language school and that's it. That being said, there are a lot of things that our alumni do to boost their income if they do want to travel a ton, or maybe they do have some debt that they need to pay off. You look at, again, like I was saying at the beginning, teaching English online is so popular in this part of the world. That is a great way if you wanted to work at a private language school full time and then pick up some extra hours teaching English online and make an extra $300, $400, $500 plus per month. You could definitely do that. And that really goes a long way, as we have here, kind of the low cost of living. You go somewhere like Colombia, Ecuador, your rent might be a couple $100 a month max. So that money really is going a long way. And again, especially if you are picking up some extra hours on top of working at a language school.
All right, and TEFL certification. So I mentioned this earlier. Many employers care more about your TEFL certification than your college degree. Why? Because, my degree is in fine art. Did that help me with teaching? No, not even in the slightest. So having this specific training is going to really matter to an employer. If you think about it, you're going to work in a position where you've got students of all different ages, all different levels. You're going to walk into a room where no one understands what you're saying, and your job is to start a conversation. So this is a very, it's an art form. It's totally different than any other field or area of education. So that will require specific training. Not only do we feel you deserve that as a teacher, but think about the students you're going to be teaching. They deserve it even more. So yes, you do need a valid, internationally recognized and accredited TEFL certificate to teach in Latin America.
We want to jump into, now that we kind of know what the requirements are to teach in this part of the world, what types of jobs might you have in this part of the world? So like we've talked about a bit, private language schools, most adult students, you definitely see opportunities with business professionals, kind of students that are in college, maybe for example, looking to learn English to then go to grad school, professionals that are looking to get a promotion or they need English for their job in general. Very common. So yeah, if you want to teach adults, great part of the world, but there are certainly some opportunities with young learners as well. Private tutoring, we find that our alumni say that this often pays better than language schools. Our job search guidance and staff in the student affairs department can kind of guide you on what the protocol is for private tutoring and what other alumni have done in the past in the country that you're in. But this is a great way to supplement your income, and then also teaching online. Like Cassie was saying with the visas, you know, especially in places that do have a tourist visa, you can really just teach English online. It's a great way to kind of be your own boss, make your own schedule, have your own hours, use this TEFL certification, you know, and really have a fantastic experience. So this is another option if you are interested in teaching online and living in Latin America and exclusively teaching online. Talk with your advisor and they can kind of walk with you and teach you how this works. But yeah, in general, I would say private language schools are the most popular.
Teaching English online, man. Wave of the future. That's what I would do. All right, guys, it is time for a poll that I'm going to launch right now. We want to know, where do you guys want to teach in Latin America? So pick from the following. Jessie, if you could teach abroad in Latin America tomorrow, where would you go?
I feel like I change my mind on this all the time. I think I would probably go to maybe Medellin, Colombia. I loved it there. It's a great place to learn Spanish. It's really, really cheap and the food is amazing. What about you?
I would go to Mexico like 1000%. Like all those other countries are great, but I don't know. There's something about it. And it could be that the, you know, Mexican peso is 19 to $1 US. It is like warm, the food is great, it's cheap. Sign me up. Shay, what about you? Are you hanging out there? Are you sweating it out in the questions?
Just living in a question box.
Hey-o.
I'd move my question box to Ecuador. I'm really intrigued by that country. I have no idea why. We have some coworkers that live there, talk very highly of it, and it's just next place to see.
All right. Nice. All right, I'm going to close the poll here. All you stragglers making up your mind, it's too late. Okay, look at these results. This is kind of interesting. So we've got Other as the winner, but only by a hair. Otherwise, Costa Rica seems to be the fan favorite. All you guys that like beaches and sloths and stuff, like, that's fun.
Other, gosh, I wonder what they are. The poll only lets us include 5 things. So I wonder what countries we're missing on here.
The good ones.
Yeah, clearly the big ones. All right, awesome. Well, we're going to run through and kind of hit some of these top countries for teaching English in Latin America. So for all of you guys who picked other, hopefully we hit your country here and give you some really, really good info. We're going to start with Argentina. Like the rest of Latin America, no degree is required. Buenos Aires, by far, is one of the largest, if not the largest, job market in Latin America. So if you want that kind of big city experience, Argentina, especially Buenos Aires, might be for you. This is an in-person interview part of the world. Malbec, tango, and football. That is definitely there for you. Sports, crazy, if you're into that. Break even for sure. This is one of those parts of the world that it is quite expensive, you know, to live in a city like Buenos Aires. You, by far, you know, you will find that our alumni are also private tutoring or teaching online if they're living in a city like Buenos Aires. Yeah, working on a tourist visa like Cassie was talking about earlier. I'm trying to think what else. Cassie, anything to add about Argentina? I feel like we're missing some flair here.
I mean, it's one of the most diverse countries, I would say. And if you're into the outdoors, I would absolutely check it out. I've seen some very lovely Instagram videos that make me like kind of hate a few of my current friends because they've recently been. If you're into meat, a lot of meat as well. There's some fun facts for you. Outdoorsy events and meat. What a place. But yes, it is popular amongst our graduates for sure.
Definitely.
All right, and I'm going to talk to you guys about Chile. This is a country where a degree isn't required, but it is strongly preferred. So this is one of the countries where it's going to be a little bit more competitive without a degree. Santiago, that's definitely the hub for teaching positions, but we have other grads currently teaching there. We've got a couple in Valparaiso, which is, here's a side story no one wants to hear, but telling it anyway. I grew up in Valparaiso, Indiana, right? And Valparaiso translates into Vale of Paradise. And I'll tell you, Valparaiso that they're talking about is the one in Chile, like the bohemian, cute, beautiful town. I grew up where it's like cows, corn, train tracks, depression, like, right? Like, that's not a Vale of Paradise. So anyway, you guys should all go to Valparaiso, Chile, and tell me what I missed out on. Anyway, moving on. Lots of outdoor activities in Chile. It's the longest country in the world. So you've got mountains, you've got seaside, you've got penguins. You can go hang out on a glacier. It's like pretty amazing. 2,000 miles of coastline. All you like long walks on the beach people, that'll be nice. And this is also a country where employers sponsor work visas for teachers. Not very common in Central and South America, so that's a perk. And this is also a place where you can find some opportunities in advance. Again, be prepared to interview in person, but if you are really banking on having something in advance in Latin America, this would be one of the countries to check out.
Colombia, this is where I want to move, so this works out. Again, no BA required, really, really inexpensive. I can't say this enough. I've spent some time, gosh, we actually went on our company trip and spent some time in Colombia. But yeah, then also went there with some friends, and I was hard pressed to spend like $100 in a week in Medellin. The street food is amazing. It's just eclectic culture, just lots of dancing and vibrant colors, and it's just a fantastic place. Really, really ideal place to learn Spanish. My Spanish is pretty terrible, but it was a place where they actually, it sounds funny to say it, but they speak quite slowly. And so it was a nice place to learn. You could take, you know, a month of Spanish classes in, say, Medellin, you know, or some of these cities in Colombia for like maybe $300-400 max a month. And this would be like a full-time class. So it's a really, really good place. Like, go there a month early, study some Spanish like crazy, and then start working. Really inexpensive, great place to learn Spanish. Like I said, the food is out of this world, huge street food culture. Medellin and Bogota by far would be the top markets. Awesome climate, very, very tropical. Summer is really hot. You might shower like 2 or 3 times a day, but that's fine. And yeah, high demand, be it in a public school, a private school, really across the board. So kind of an up and coming part of the world to teach. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, wait, isn't it? Like, are people going there? Absolutely. Again, a great, great place to teach and live. So that's Colombia.
And Costa Rica, this is a place that's near and dear to my heart. This was my first solo trip I ever did, and I loved it. This is a great, has to be in, like, I don't know, top 5, top 10 destinations for our graduates for sure. I think that's because there is such a robust job market there, a super high demand, and because of that, they hire year round. So if you need some flexibility and in your departure timeline, Costa Rica is a great option. And I'm sure many of you know, or you've seen commercials or pictures. You know, this is a country that has coastline, it has rainforest, jungle, it has one of the most also diverse ecosystems in South America, which is really cool. If you're into animals, tons of national parks. If you're like, I talked to a student last week that's a marine biology major and like could not stop freaking out about Costa Rica. He had just come back from there and watched like all the sea turtles, you know, all the little baby sea turtles go into the ocean. And I was like, what a moment, how nice. Great place to learn Spanish, tons of alumni there, tropical weather. These are all really great things, but also it is just one of those places that you go. All the locals joke that you're on Tico time when you get there because everything happens on its own and naturally. If you own a watch, throw it away. Nothing will ever really go on time in Costa Rica, but you get used to that and you start to appreciate it. The people are super friendly. You can like walk down the street and get hit with an avocado and a mango falling off of a tree on your head. Like, those are 2 of my favorite things. I would move there in a heartbeat. But yes, anyway, I could talk about it forever, but this is one of the places I recommend the most to students.
Yeah, I feel like Latin America will be a really good place, like Cassie was saying, throughout your watch. Like, I'm someone who's very like punctual, type A, so this is a really good place for those of us who need to just kind of let that sort of thing go. And
Tranquilo, man.
Like, it's gonna happen. I'm just like always so uptight. I'm like, I'm 5 minutes early and no one, your students aren't gonna be there for like 15 more minutes. It's the way it goes, let it go. You know, it just has this like really, really, I think, very refreshing culture that a lot of us maybe could use here in the States. So that's Costa Rica. Ecuador, Shay's moving here apparently. Yeah, another one that I would group very similar, you know, throw it along with like Colombia, extremely inexpensive. Yeah, we should have Lindsay here. One of our staff members spent a ton of time in Ecuador. Very off the beaten path. You know, it's somewhere that you get Argentina, Chile, Costa Rica, really popular. Ecuador, again, very much is that kind of authentic, like you might be one of the first English teachers at the school that they've ever had. So it's a totally kind of different experience. Fantastic coastline, mountains, jungles, large indigenous population, you know, just this really authentic, unique experience. Yeah. Cassie, anything to add on Ecuador? I'm sure you have lots of stories from Lindsay.
None of them are. No one wants to hear about her giving birth in Ecuador story, so I'll save that, you guys. No, that aside, Ecuador. A couple things that I know about it. It is one of the. It's a really great place if you're considering retiring in a foreign country. Fun fact, I guess. Ecuador makes it a lot easier to buy property as a foreigner, which is hard to do in other countries. And I think I don't know what the logistics are, but I think with taxes and all of that, it's just one of the most, it's one of the easiest countries to transition over to. Also super low cost of living. So any sort of retirement or funds you have would go a long way there. Yeah, I saw it was like on a magazine cover, like, I don't know, 1 year ago or so, that it was like the top place for retirees. Not to say that that's like the only person that teaches there, but if you are looking for a place that, you know, doesn't really care about age restrictions or things like that, I think Ecuador is a good one to consider. And the Andean culture is really nice. Like just looking at these little, someone is going to correct me, but if they're either alpacas or llamas, I think these are alpacas. I could be wrong. Anyway, I love them. The Andean culture is just fantastic. Totally different. Yeah.
And yeah, maybe in a future webcast, we'll talk about our colleague Lindsay had her daughter in Ecuador. So future webcast, we'll tell that story. Yeah, Mexico.
Moving on. Everyone's like, bye, gotta go make dinner. Yeah, so again, Mexico, this is where I would likely teach abroad again tomorrow if I had that time. So yeah, and this is also a really popular place to teach. I think it has to do with, you know, the proximity to the United States. It's not super far. You can find really great flights over to Mexico too, which is nice. It's very low cost of living. I was just in Mexico a couple months ago. Jesse was there as well. We met up on the beach for some beers and some tacos, which was fun. But literally, again, this is a place where you go, and with US dollars, I mean, it's hard to spend money, it seems. This is a great place to go and also work online. If you're making, you know, $18, $20 an hour online and $1 is 19 pesos, you're living really well and not having to work that hard, which is great. Mexico is also a country that provides work permits, so that's a nice perk. They also have a lot of year-round hiring here. And there's just a lot of variety. I really love Mexico City. I know some of you might like more coastal towns like Puerto Vallarta. We had a couple colleagues recently go to the Oaxaca area, and I was like, I must go. Like, where is this magical place? Like, what are these pictures? This seems fantastic. And honestly, I mean, I've been to many places in the world. Mexican food is hands down my favorite. So I would just go get fat and happy, and I don't care what anyone has to say about it. But yes, it's a great place to teach.
All right.
Oh, wait, Amy said they're alpacas. I was right. Thanks, Amy.
On to Peru. Yeah, no degree, really low cost of living. Lima and Arequipa by far would be kind of the big ones. There's a lot to see and do in Peru. The big one being, of course, Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail, that whole experience. So if you need an excuse to get you a little bit closer to Machu Picchu, maybe teaching in Peru is that. Definitely interviewing in person. Yeah, you know, there's definitely a lot of outdoor access in Peru. Cassie, I'm trying to think of what else. Peru is kind of an off the beaten path one. We don't get tons and tons of alumni teaching in Peru, kind of a unique one. I'm trying to think what I'm forgetting here.
No, I mean, I think for many people, visiting Machu Picchu and the ruins is it's like a bucket list thing. So it's a, it's a country where you could go and do that. I mean, there's a lot of indigenous people in Peru as well. If you're into history, folklore, it's a great place to go. I will say I feel like it's one of the, I don't want to say harder countries to travel, but it is a little bit more, like the cities I think are a little bit more remote. But there's like great hiking, great things to do there. They've got, I mean, some of the best like little street side markets I've ever been to in Latin America. So yeah, it's a contender.
So those would be the top countries for teaching English in Latin America. And on to teaching English online. I know I've talked about this a ton. Cassie's chimed in on this. We've probably talked it to death. But teaching English online. So it seems kind of maybe bizarre if you haven't heard of it before. But really, you're running a classroom with students from all over the world, typically students in China. That's really the most common that we see. But you are their digital English teacher. They see you. Here's kind of an example of one of our students' photos in her little setup for her class that day. So it's a real gig. You really are teaching real students. You can see them, they can see you. But it is this kind of up and coming, Cassie was saying, the kind of the future of teaching English. We all very much have adopted this and tell our students about it like crazy because it is a great way to make extra money when you're living abroad, but it's also a really, really good way. Say you're getting TEFL certified and you're still in the States and want to get some experience and practice before you head abroad, start teaching online while you're getting TEFL certified, get that experience, get that confidence, and be able to head overseas and talk about this sort of thing in your interview. And who knows, again, maybe continue teaching online and working at a private language school or a combination of, whatever you choose. But yeah, so really, really cool, kind of exciting thing that you can also do with your TEFL certification forever. Cassie, anything to add about teaching online?
Don't forget your monkey and banana, essential.
Yeah, exactly. So that's about it.
All right, so now I'm going to go over some of the TEFL class options that, this is really, the first thing you really want to do in this whole process is think about if it's something you're really serious about. And when you're like 51% excited, 49% gonna puke because it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? That's the right spot, right? Like you're more excited than anything else. Once you're there, your next step is figuring out, okay, which TEFL class am I going to take? Which one is best for my plans? So let's delve into that now. All right, so the online TEFL class. 9 times out of 10, this is what I recommend to students. Why? Because, I'm sorry, someone says I'm 65%. I hope I'm 65% excited, not 65% gonna puke, Satya. So just throwing that out there. So the online class, yeah, this is really, I think, just a great route for most students. This is our only part-time option. So for those of you that are working or in school or have any sort of a life to keep up with, I think the online route is really the best. It's an 11-week-long class, so it's about 2.5 months. You can log in whenever you want during the week, but you'll have a set number of assignments due at the end of the week. So you're looking at like 10, 11 hours of work each week. And I think this is great because if you're not really sure where you want to go yet, you don't have to make that decision. You can focus on just taking the first step and starting your TEFL class. It's also a really cost-efficient option. So save yourself some money. As we talked about, the US dollar goes pretty far in most of these places, so spend that money on something really fun. The online program starts every 2 weeks, so it's running really frequently as well. But yeah, I think it's great too for those of you that might want to try to line up a job in advance. Take your class online, apply to those positions from home, scope out other options. Maybe you're torn between a place in Latin America or, I don't know, Japan. So give yourself a little bit of time to think that through, talk with alumni, research, and while you're doing that, you're still getting closer to becoming a TEFL certified teacher.
Yeah, I took this online class pretty much right after I walked by the office, met with my advisor, and the second he started kind of explaining this to me, you're like, an online class, it kind of doesn't have that glamorous sound to it versus like, oh, I'm going to go take this class in Costa Rica. But when you really get down to it and you're like, my end goal is to have this experience, teach abroad, travel the world, you're like, okay, it was a much more affordable way for me to be able to do this faster. And it was definitely just, I was working full time, so it was a nice way to, you know, literally during my lunch breaks, over the weekends, kind of chip away at my assignments and be able to have a very manageable just schedule in general, and was awfully glad that I did. When time came, I was quitting my job, I was TEFL certified, I was getting on a plane and going and doing this. So yeah, maybe not the most glamorous sounding way of getting TEFL certified, but really, really glad that I did. And to kind of talk, Cassie was saying, you know, 9 out of 10 times she recommends the online class. I think that's exactly right. And the other time would be these in-person classes. So we have 4-week full-time in-person TEFL classes that you can take. We kind of joke that these are TEFL boot camp. So these are in-person classes in the States. We have one in New York, Hawaii, and then of course at our headquarters in Chicago. So if you are in the area or looking to spend some time in Chicago over the summer, great, come on in. You can meet our staff. You can do all your job search guidance with our advisors in the office. Great place to get certified if you are local or have some friends you can crash on their couch, you know, that sort of thing. But if not, you know, more kind of popular would be to do one of our in-person classes, in your case, in Latin America. You know, so say you're like, hey, I know for sure that I want to teach English in Costa Rica. Great, you know, spend your first month getting TEFL certified. You can meet some other teachers. If you really, really have a strong preference toward an in-person learning style, then an in-person class might be for you. So a nice way to kind of transition to that life overseas. Maybe you've never been abroad before. This might be a nice option. And Cassie and Shay, feel free to chime in here, but I would say, in my experience, the really, really common instance for someone to take this in-person class would be a timeline. They're like, hey, you know, my lease is up. I'm looking to be abroad next month, or, you know, really soon. The 3-month online class is just a little bit too long. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, jump and kind of pull the trigger on it and do an in-person class next month. I see that a lot. Cassie, Shay, what do you guys think?
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, or if you know you have a destination where someone really wants to be, they know that's exactly where they want to be to stay on and teach afterwards.
Yeah, I think one thing to point out about the in-person classes is they can get a little bit pricey if you save and you prepare, and especially somewhere like taking a class in Ecuador. You know, it's not overly expensive to pay for accommodation for a month, you know, and pay for your food and transportation. It's not that, you know, big of a deal versus maybe somewhere like Buenos Aires, but it is a consideration, you know, the tuition, and then on top of that, that first month, you're going to be in TEFL boot camp, studying like crazy. It is your life, learning to become a teacher, practice teaching, all that good stuff. So then you're not going to be working, then you're going to start working, work that first month, and likely then get your first paycheck. So if that makes sense, your first 2 months really would be unpaid overseas. So it's just something to plan for, not trying to scare you out of it, but it is an extra consideration to keep in mind if you are thinking of an in-person class.
Right, and we kind of touched on a couple of these things already, but you know, that's one of those things you're going to have to debate and take a little bit of time to think about. Which way is right for you? Doing an online class or going to an in-person class, either stateside or abroad. But yeah, I would say the big things to consider are timing. You know, how does this work with your trip? Or, you know, maybe it works for you to keep your job, keep saving for your trip, and then go. Or maybe you are like me and you've quit your job on a whim and you're like, wait, what do I do now? And you're ready to go. Maybe you do something like that and go take your class abroad. Also, there's learning preference too. I know, you know, many of us are visual learners. We just really need to see things to understand. Do know that with that fact, you're not going to lose out by taking the online class. You know, the online class has videos embedded into the course content, so you can read about a teaching method and then watch that method being used in a classroom. There are live lectures to attend. We also have you do 20 hours of live student teaching. You may have heard about us or heard about this in the other like general webcasts that we do. So there's still that hands-on component. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing to consider is just what's best for you. Maybe getting things done in a 4-week condensed boot camp style, or maybe you're like me and at some point in the day your brain's like, I'm good, let's pack it up. Let's go home and binge some Netflix or something. If you're more of that learner where you need to take your time, then the online class might be a pretty good fit. So these are all things to mull over.
Definitely. So we've talked all about these amazing countries, the requirements. Now, how the heck are we going to help you get a job? So enters in now our job search guidance team or our student affairs department. I love talking about this department. They do an unbelievable amount of work with our students to make sure that they're confident, they're heading overseas, they have a plan, they know what's going on, they feel really, really good. So key things, and there are many more. We could list pages and pages of really what they do. But resume and cover letter assistance, this seems obvious, but it really, once you start applying for jobs, you'll realize that country by country, region by region, there are different ways to prepare these materials. I was shocked when I was teaching in Korea that I needed my photo like smack dab in the center of my resume. I never would have known that, and I never would have gotten an interview. So just making sure that your materials are solid and based, ready for the region that you're going to. Really, the big thing, and one of the really, I think, best things that we do here is you're going to have a personal advisor to work with you on the front end and help you choose a TEFL class, so your admissions advisor. But then on the back end, you're going to have your job search advisor. You're going to work with the same job search advisor. They know you. They know your story. You've likely talked many times. You're going to, keep building and building and building and talking and planning. So it's not this like you call in and we're like you starting from scratch over and over. You're going to have your advisor, and they're there to help you one-on-one create your personal plan to go do this. Just like we're having this webcast now, our job search team hosts webcasts all the time. They're just like we're doing a Latin America webcast here to all of you. They might do a nitty-gritty how to find your job in Latin America. That's it. So specialized trainings for our alumni. Job search resources galore. We have a job search guidance manual that's like growing by the minute. It's like 500 pages or something, but it really is sort of the encyclopedia of teaching abroad. So we have a lot of, packing lists, apps you should get, documentation you might need to be aware of, anything and everything you can dream of. They'll make sure that you're aware of it before you head overseas. Connections and experience with recruiters across the world. This is definitely a really, really, I think, undervalued tool that we do offer. Is we can just recommend really, really good schools, and we've been there, we've done that, we've been in touch with our alumni and know really who's had a good experience doing what. And job search guidance for life. This is a really fun one. For me, it was teaching English in South Korea for a year and a half, got in touch and was like, hey, can you guys help me now find a job in Vietnam? Absolutely, let's start planning. So it's a great thing to have in your back pocket. You can get in touch anytime. We're always here to help you out and help you find a job and transition if you want to change schools, cities, countries, whatever it might be. That's a lot. Cassie, Shay, I know we could go on forever about them. Anything really, really big to add about our job search guidance?
Well,
we have more
they're just cool people
in that department than my college career services center. So it is really personalized.
Yeah, I'd also add that because of them, we have students teaching in over 80 countries, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And another one I would add is that they look over, so when I was getting my job, the school basically gives you a contract that says, hey, here's the deal. This is what you're getting. And it was great to have this, group, this advisor to kind of have my back, look over and say, yes, this looks really good. Or, no, I see some red flags in here based on your qualifications or, whatever it might be. I would pass on this one. It's just nice to have that assurance. It's nice to have someone in your corner who is just looking out for you and saying, hey, based on what I know about you, this looks really, really good. So yeah, job search guidance. So yeah, not only are we certifying you, but we're actually making sure that you know how to use the certificate that you just invested your time and money in.
All right, guys. So we covered a lot of information. You're probably like taking crazy notes and just feeling a little bit exhausted inside, but you've made it. So let's go over what you're going to do next. Okay, so you want to talk with your advisor. Your advisor is likely the person that sent you the email about this webcast. So get in touch with your advisor, ask your questions, go over your travel goals, your ideas, your thoughts, and they'll help you start putting together a bit of a game plan. They'll also talk to you about which TEFL course might be the best fit for what you're doing specifically. So figure that out, get yourself TEFL certified, then go experience the world, go have fun. We have our whole lives to sit at a desk and do a job that we kind of like and kind of don't. So if you don't have anything holding you down, absolutely go and do this. We've been doing this for a long time, myself for 8-9 years, Shay for 10, Jesse for probably 25? No, I'm kidding, but a long time. And I think we could all agree that we've never heard someone come back from this and say like, it was okay. Or like, meh, it was all right. Yeah, no, doesn't happen. I've talked to people about this and seen like their, excitement come through in their eyes. They're like, oh my gosh, you want to hear my travel stories? Like no one else does. How amazing. So I've had that. I've seen people weep about it. I've seen graduates go abroad and do crazy cool things like open their own schools, start their own companies, fall in love. If any of you guys have watched our Instagram lately, it's like engagement season. It's popping off in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, but go have the experience. It's what we're here to do, and it's a lot of fun.
Man, you're for real. I think we've had 3 or 4 engagements this year.
Yeah.
Like mid-March. Yeah. So that Instagram, if there's no other reason to follow it, is that you're going to see some action on there, some engagements. That's that. How did we do? Shay, if you could, we have a survey that you guys would please fill out and give us some feedback. Did you love it? Did you hate it? How can we improve? What are some new webcasts that you'd like to see? So Shay is going to send that to all of you guys. If you could take like literally 30 seconds after the webcast is over to fill this out, we would really, really, really appreciate it. And Shay, when you're done doing that, we would love to know who won the $100 raffle.
Yes, fake drum roll, please. Brrr. Connor Wilson, congratulations, my friend.
Awesome. Congrats, Connor. Thanks for sticking with us. So yeah, that's that. Check out our social media, even if you didn't win, because it's awesome. So we've got about 10 minutes left. That's great. Shay, it looks like you've been typing like crazy. Do you want to give us, each a couple questions or something like that, and we'll go through them.
Yeah, we had a good one. Cassie, if you want to kick us off, asked about, hey, do you have to pay taxes in your home country if you're teaching abroad in Latin America?
Woo! Giving me the hard ones. Dang. All right. Well, I actually know a lot about it. Oh no. I got you, girl. I got this. Okay. So with taxes, been there. I've had this. I know what it's like. Okay, so the long and short of it, what I'm always supposed to say up front is, please consult a tax professional before submitting your documents, blah, blah, blah. Like talk to an actual tax consultant, ask these questions. Like you should do it. We're not the experts on that, depending on your personal financial situation. However, if you do your taxes, typically you get to a question that asks you if you have earned income internationally. You say yes, and then it will ask you if you've earned, I think it's even higher now, but it used to be over 97,000 USD. So $97,000. I hate to break it to you guys, you're not making $97,000 in most cases teaching English abroad, especially not in Central or South America. So you won't be paying tax on that income that you earn abroad in the United States, most likely. Again, consult a tax professional. I don't know your situation. So that's not something you'd have to worry about. However, pro tip, wherever you go, always file your taxes. Even if you're not earning enough money to be taxed, always file them just in case you get audited in the future. And they're like, where were you in 2020? Like, you don't want to have to answer to that. So just always file your taxes anyway. Does that sum it up? Anything you want to add there, Jesse?
No, yeah, you're exactly right. I think that dollar amount, it might have even gone up, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So even if you're teaching online, I'm sorry to tell you, yeah, I don't think you would go over that amount. So, yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. That was asked a couple of times here, and thanks for all your questions. I'm trying to get to all of them. So as you've been reminded throughout the presentation, contact your personal advisor. That's what they're here for. Another good question we had a couple people ask is, are there age limitations for teaching in Latin America?
Yeah, this would be a great part of the world, really, if you're 18 or 75. Like, this is a place where really these sort of age restrictions are more or less irrelevant. You look at Asia or certain parts of Europe, where they really are looking for teachers like between 21 and 35. This is a place, like Cassie was saying, it's great for retirees. It's great for really anybody. So if you have that TEFL certification, you're a fluent or native English speaker, you're a great fit. I really wouldn't worry about that age. One thing is there are a lot of positions, in some positions at least, for teaching young learners. You might see it's just a lot of work. It's tons of kids with a lot of energy, so that's just something where it's up to you. But really, so if you are 18 and are like, hey, college just really isn't my thing, I'd rather go travel the world first, this might be a great place for you. If you're like, hey, I'm done with Chicago winter and want to go retire in Costa Rica or Ecuador and teach, great place for you too. Cassie, Shay, anything to add on that?
I think that's pretty much spot on.
Yeah, same.
All right.
Okay, time for one more. Are we good? What is this?
Yeah, let's do one or two more. Yeah, we've got some time.
So we had someone ask, hey, I'm not currently in a city where you host an on-site class. I want to take the online class. How do I finish my practicum? This question came out of the Bay Area. So anyone want to tackle that?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about it. So, like we said earlier, a lot of our students take our online course. It's definitely the most popular class that we have. And with that class, you are required to complete 20 hours of volunteer student teaching. We call that practicum. And that's something that you're going to do in your local area. If you're in the Bay Area, you are good to go because there are a lot of non-native English speakers in the Bay Area, really throughout most of the United States. In many cases, it's a bit of a melting pot, especially if you live near a metropolitan area. So our students will complete their practicum by volunteer student teaching non-native English speakers in English at community centers, community colleges, libraries, faith-based organizations, refugee centers. Even if you know a non-native speaker, you can ask to tutor them one-on-one. There is some documentation that we need, and you'll be writing about your experience and posting that in the class so that we can keep track of it. But really, I think it's the best part of the class. I've talked to so many students that say it helped them get over the, just those kind of nerves when you're initially in front of a class, working with people that may or may not understand a whole lot of what you're saying. Just kind of get over that feeling, and you'll start to get really excited about just being abroad yourself, having your own students, your own classroom. It'll start to become real at that point. And I'll tell you, just like with many other fields, you could read 100 books on being a teacher, but you're going to have no idea what you are doing until you get your hands dirty and try it out for yourself. So yes, it is something you complete local to you. Someone says, can they do the practicum in Canada? Sure can, Jennifer, if there are non-native speakers near you. Worst case scenario, if you live in Alaska, Alaska's great and there are non-native speakers in Alaska, but if you live somewhere where there are not a lot of people in general, or maybe your schedule is crazy or something and you need an alternative, it is possible to complete some of your student teaching online through Skype or a video format. We can give you details on that, but I really do think it's in your best interest to do it face-to-face in person.
Yeah, 100%. Just chiming in on that, like I was a journalism major. I'd never taught a day in my life. I'd never stood in front of a classroom, and it was just all this completely kind of crazy thing. And so you finish up your class, and you're doing your practice teaching, and it is a surreal moment, standing in front of the classroom for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, all these people are looking at me like they're waiting for me to teach them something. It is this crazy moment. So it was nice to have the confidence that getting on the plane, I have done this before. I did those 20 hours. I think I ended up just kind of sticking with it and doing a little bit over, but it became my routine. Tuesdays and Thursdays after work, I volunteered and taught English for 2 hours. That was just what I did. So that was kind of what it looked like for me, working full time with the online class. But really, I could not imagine going overseas without having done that practice teaching beforehand. Also really was great to be able to talk about it in interviews. Have you taught before? Yes. I'm teaching right now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it was a great talking point, and just really good for my confidence. I can't say that enough. So yeah, practice teaching.
Excellent. And since I think a lot of people have that question, I just want to add too that ITA does have ESL centers across the US and around the world that have reached out to us to request our students go in to practice, work with their ESL students. So we got your back. We're not going to leave you hanging one way or the other. You're going to get it done and you're going to love it.
Yeah, guys, it's America. We love free work. Go volunteer. People will love you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well put. We should have just said that.
Yeah.
Okay, one more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Jesse, why don't you field this one? We had a couple people asking, hey, I read something about a couple of free specializations to your online class. Do you want to expand on that for them?
Yeah, so when you take the online class, you have an option to add on a special module. So it's for one of them is teaching business professionals, and the other is teaching young learners. So basically, kind of middle of the class, you'll get the student affairs department will basically contact you and say, "Hey, are you interested in doing these bonus modules? They don't cost anything." For me, the answer was absolutely. Like, this is another free skill that I am going to get from this class. And it's something that, depending on what job you are applying for, maybe it's a kid's position, maybe it's adults, you can kind of work with your student affairs advisor and highlight, one or the other of those, skill sets that you're going to get from the class and be like, yes, I do have this specialized training in teaching business professionals and teaching business English. So this would put your 11-week online class actually at 13 weeks. Again, these are free. So if you're taking the online class, why the heck not? But yeah, something to keep in mind, and don't worry about it right this second. Again, we will contact you about this, and you can tell us yes or no if you're interested at that point. So yeah, those are those classes. More training, why the heck not, would be my opinion on that. Cassie, Shay, anything that I missed?
You got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Cool. All righty, well, right about on the dot here, 1 hour. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We don't want to go over our time here. So yeah, thank you for being with us. We hope that you're paid, you just took a ton of notes and hopefully are ready to get in touch with your admissions advisor tomorrow or this week. Send them an email right now if you want. Call them and leave them a voicemail. They'll get back to you and start talking and making your plan and hopefully making this crazy, crazy dream into a reality. Cassie, Shay, anything else to add before we sign off?
Don't wait forever, guys.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, have an awesome night, everybody. And yeah, thanks again. We'll see you soon.